Hey guys, I'm back with another review. This one's going to be of the group stage, G2 versus SKT. It's the first game of the MSI tournament, and let's just go into it. Hold on, I have to grab this. I haven't watched any of the MSI games, so this review is going to be a blind review. We see Jarvan first ban on blue side, which is a little weird because you can always first pick the Rek'Sai or wait for the Rek'Sai ban to come out before banning the Jarvan. So it's kind of a weird first ban. It's okay though. Galio, overall good ban. They might just have a plan for the Rek'Sai and are trying to get one of the strong solo laners. So they might be baiting SKT into taking it. But I still don't think it's a great strategy. I don't think you gain anything more from swapping these bans around. They banned the Karthus and the Sona, which Sona is to deny the Sonateric, and Karthus is just kind of annoying to deal with throughout the game, so it might be something they don't want to deal with, especially the first game that they're playing, where it might not be as clean because players aren't as warmed up. And then when it's not as clean, Karthus tends to do a little better. Tom Kench ban, very interesting. G2, with the way they're doing their bans, they're kind of saying, hey, we want all the split pushers. And we see SKT having to ban the Rek'Sai. They first picked the Rise, which is a very strong pick right now. Both solo laners can play it, so it makes drafting around it a little bit harder. I would be surprised to see the Silas come out, although it has been a priority pick on this patch. We do see it locked in, also can be flexed. I don't really like the Silas pick because now you're kind of in a situation where the Rise ult isn't very useful to take, and SKT end up picking up Lee Sin, which is pretty good considering Rek'Sai and Jarvan are banned. It's one of the more aggressive pickups. Xayah just gets locked in here. Fairly good against Lee, and it's good against Silas because the ult isn't really that useful, and they pick up Rakan as well. So far I'm liking G2's draft. They do opt for that Xayah Rakan for some engage, and it's also very neutral picks in the sense where their comp can go either way still. Ezreal's a pretty good pick as well. Gives some wave clear that they need, and it's also very safe into Xayah Rakan, whereas you wouldn't really want to play something immobile. If they picked something like Braum there, you could expect to see G2 just ban out Lucian, ban out Ezreal. We see the Irelia ban, and when we see the Irelia ban, we'll probably see the Kali ban as well. Braum does get banned out here. I would expect that. I would also expect another support to be banned. Maybe, probably not something like Alistar. Maybe something. It's kind of hard to say what they would want to ban. They could also ban something like LeBlanc. I think that would be pretty decent. Although I don't know how the Rise LeBlanc matchup goes, so it may be a little more problematic. And they could also take the LeBlanc, which would be fairly decent as long as they got some kind of AD from jungle. and it's actually, well, I guess G2 has to ban the Akali because they're on they're on blue side. Nautilus here for flex. It can be flexed into support or mid. I would highly expect it to go mid because the matchup at bottom isn't very good. Although they could pick something stronger here at mid as well. Sejuani is a pick that's been getting some priority back. And when they pick the Jace, they're pretty much saying, hey, the Ryze is going to go mid. We're going to play Jace top. We know what you're playing, essentially. And this pretty much forces the Nautilus to go bottom, which is very good for G2's bottom lane, because now they pretty much have a free lane that scales. And they end up going with the Elise. I thought Elise might be a good pick, especially into their team comp. Elise is a skill matchup versus Lee Sin. It gives your Jace priority. I won't like it if they... Okay, I don't like the Azir pick here. The problem now is you have two very strong split pushers in the 1-3-1 that the Azir can't really handle as the game goes on. Azir can't really handle the Jace. Azir can't really handle the Ryze either. Maybe he can handle the Ryze, but he won't be able to push is the problem. So now you have a 1-3-1 comp where your 3 is very strong. This is a very explosive 1-3-1, especially into this. When you play into something like this, if the cocoon lands, they're dead. Essentially. Even if it's on the Nautilus, I believe. So now G2 is just going to play, as long as they don't lose the early game, their solo lanes don't lose, which they shouldn't lose when they have this matchup going on. The G2 comp is just much better. Silas doesn't have good ults at all to take. He has one ult. So this is why picking the Silas is kind of not the greatest, because now you're in a situation where you can only take one ult, and it's Rakan, which you're not going to be interacting with because you're going to be in the side lane having to fight one of these guys. So now the 1-3-1 becomes even better. So SKT definitely came out of this a lot worse. It looks like G2 is prepared for it, knowing that if the Silas was picked, they're going to pick low impact ultimates. And I believe Irelia wins against Silas. So it's kind of a situation where they kind of got forced into leaving up the Jace. I don't really agree with the Morg pit ban. I don't really understand it at all. Because unless they're playing Morg mid, which goes against what their comp wants to do, then it's not very good. So they definitely could have banned the Jace. It should definitely have been on their radar. They definitely could have prevented all this from happening, essentially. So I really think G2's draft was very, very thought out and very good. If you're SKT, you're kind of looking for win conditions on your comp, but they're not very clear at all. Mid game, but you have azir, so your mid game like automatically loses. Late game, maybe possible, but you lose the 1-3-1, so it's hard to play a grouped 5 late game when the solo lanes can just get set up. I assume double TP is being taken as well from the Ryze and Jace. You don't really need cleanse against Azir or Lee. So this is becoming hard for SKT. We're gonna speed this up. They get the ward here, which is good because you need to know where the lease starts. But with a ward like that, the only real information you're getting is if he's going to go to golems or not, and that he started red. After that, everything's kind of up in the air. Top lane should be contested. So what I think will happen here is he'll do red into like maybe like wolves and blue and try to contest off this. I think the azir does win this push level 1. Thinking about it. But a level 2, if the scuttle is fought for, then it's a lot different. Assuming Lee starts this red, he doesn't necessarily have to start it, but it's in his best interest to not start it. I don't think camping bot is a very good play from SKT. Reason being, well, one, it's Ocean Dragon. It benefits G2 a lot more. And two, you need to get a solo lane ahead so you can actually 1-3-1. But mid's kind of hard to gank, and top, you can win the 2v2 as long as the Elise misses the cocoon. So I actually like this from Lee starting on the bot side of the map. I would expect to see maybe him going for bot side scuttle, because he knows his top isn't going to have priority, and his mid is going to be... His mid is going to have priority, but it's not as relevant. Faker comes to get this late pixel ward. Should be timed out. So now he knows that 3:30 is the time that he needs to avoid pixel. He knew that he could shove there. And this is something I believe Faker likes to do a lot, is when you win the shove, you just shove out and then get the ward instead of warding early. He is for sure going to get spot on this because he skipped his Raptors, which I was saying he should skip his Raptors as well, because this pixel ward, if it was put at 120, would be dead by now. But I guess it wasn't called out. He ends up taking the ward and gets the zombie, which is very good. This movement by Caps is pretty interesting, but the reason why he wants to get a ward way out here is for this interaction here. So basically they're just playing for Jace to get ahead more than anything else. The fact that there's a fight coming here is pretty strange. But he did end up getting the ward. So now you pretty much know, because the Lee Sin has to back, there's no reason for him to walk this way. So this ward is going to spot out if he does, and they're going to get way behind. So this whole interaction was to make sure that Jace can get out of lane properly. They saw the Lee, so they decided to fight at bottom. Not the greatest fight to take, considering you're not going to get the jungle pressure as much here. Good dodge. Could have been problematic had he landed that. The Elise being here is purely to counter gank the Lee Sin if you want to return gank. This is pretty big. Even that small chunk, because the lane is frozen and he has no TP, is going to do a lot. We'll see if the Elise knows to go to his Raptors. Obviously, I can see it's up, but there's no harm in checking because you have the scuttle and you cleared the ward. So you can come here, check, and then look for a mid gank, and then transition over into your bot side. Which, when you're the team that has lanes that have priority, you don't really have to care about being seen or not. Because your goal is to just make sure your lanes can win on their own. So it's more about denying the Lee Sin any pressure. He didn't check the Raptors first, but he did go for that gank. Caps is down a little bit of CS because he made that roam up into the top lane. I didn't personally think that he would get much off of the top, but it did put him down a little bit of CS. The ward he got was very good though. Good flash. You see the Elise again playing for this jungle versus jungle matchup, and it's mostly because of the lanes. Because as I said, you just want your lanes to automatically win because they naturally get ahead on their own. So you just play jungle versus jungle, and you don't really have to worry too much about your solo laners needing help or anything like that. Big mistake here by SKT. SKT want to force because the Azir says, hey, I have perfect roam timing here. But they just end up turning on the Nautilus. And he's eating the creep wave as well. So it's not necessarily the best time to roam. I'm sure SKT knows, though, that they need to make proactive plays because they lose the macro game so hard in the mid and late game. Just by their team comp. Perks isn't too afraid because the Ezreal obviously has no mana, so he's kind of just like, we can trade and see what happens. We see again, the Silas is really getting bullied out. So obviously the Morg ban was a mistake in draft. I have no idea why they banned that still. The only way this gank would have worked is if they didn't turn onto the Nautilus. So basically G2 knows that they can just keep pushing up and pressuring because the SKT solo laners have to get ahead. So when you know that that's the case, the Lee Sin isn't going to really be camping down here because the problem with camping bot, even if you get this bot lane ahead, they don't do anything in terms of the game because they don't impact the two solo lanes that are going to be pushing up into your base. I'd be surprised to see the Elise come down here as well. Obviously, it's strictly for counter ganking. And we kind of see that as she doesn't want to show. And she just kind of is waiting around for the Lee Sin. I think it's fairly good. because of the pathing, he knows that the Lee Sin should be somewhere around this this top side of the map, just because of where he started. So you can kind of mirror how his camps are up, let's say Gromp Wolves, etc., and know that these camps are probably up. Plus, he probably timed this because he saw the Lee Sin do it, so he knows these are spawning as well. So it's not so much of a guess at this point. So he's just here to counter gank. Not so much counter gank, but this is really good. The fact that Caps roamed up here so that they could secure this tower is really, really strong. I would expect them to take this tower, put their bot lane mid, and now start the 1-3-1 right now. Ocean Drag is still up because it has almost no priority in this game. G2 would want to get it, but it slows down their early tempo from their laners. So they're going to just not bother touching with it, which I think is really smart. They're already stacking up the platings here. They don't really care what happens to bot lane as much. Or maybe they do. I mean, they're just trying to not waste XP at this point, and the Ryze is getting back to mid. A good play here would maybe be shove this in, rotate to mid, and then drop the Herald at mid before the platings are done. So I would expect to see some kind of movement from the G2 bot lane. SKT says, hey, we can't do anything else. We need to trade something for this Herald. Let's just get the Dragon. The problem with getting the Dragon is it's just not good with their team comp as much. If this was Infernal, you'd see more focus towards this Dragon. If it was Mountain, you would also see more. We're going to see at some point this Elise wants to drop the Herald, pre-14. It might be towards bottom. I don't necessarily agree with that. But with the way he's pathing, it looks like they want bottom. They know it's bottom too. So they're trying to react to this. SKT, that is. It's trying to react to it. They end up just not using it at bottom either. You can expect to see it used soon, I would think. Maybe not. Maybe they just say, hey, we're up enough gold, our team outscales, we don't need to rush this Herald down. We can just take our time and get the mid tower. So the Ryze bases, he gets, I believe, yeah, he finishes his Archangels. Zaya's finished with her item. Jace is on his power spike. So now this is the time where they're going to want to group mid, take mid tower, and then start the 1-3-1. I guess they wanted to let the Jace get the top tower first so he can commit to this roam. They're looking for a pick before they're dropping Herald. They're looking for a Herald play. I'm pretty certain. So now you have 5 members towards the mid lane. Cut off. So now the Herald gets dropped. A little bit off on the timing. They could have had it pre-14. But it's okay in the grand scheme of things. They don't need the gold so much as they need this tower. So that's why you see them all grouped up here. They're also all on power spikes, so that's why they're also grouped up. Gets taken. Now everyone's back to their lane assignments. Really strange to not see the Ryze commit to a 1-3-1 here. I guess he's a little scared of the Ezreal Nautilus combo, thinking he could die. I don't think Perks and Mickey X would need to worry about the Azir killing them, even with the Lee Sin combo. You can tell they're really playing for this mid tower. So now this opens up bot tower as well. Maybe they didn't want to move him bot yet because they wanted to give blue buff, which you could now maybe see him going bot. No. Okay, now you see the full reset. Drag is Cloud. Doesn't really matter too much. The reason why Jace doesn't have to go top all the way is because this wave is pushing in. So as long as he gets to the tower before this wave hits tower, then he's not going to lose any CS. So that's why you kind of see him, hey, let's make a play for this bot tower. Because it's free based on the map positioning. So they're doing everything in a very fundamental way, which I like. Especially with their team comp. So they pretty much figured out this one's free. They also I keep saying start the 1-3-1, but they realize like, hey, our power spikes are insane. We can just group and win everything. So that's what they're doing. But no doubt, the problem in this game started from draft. They're taking everything they can. They're going to take drag and reset here, I would assume. They don't reset. They want the blue. Maybe close to items. But Jace is already on 2 items, so kind of hard to say. He's also at 50 CS because of the jungle pathing in this early game. Okay, so now they start the 1-3-1 at 18 minutes. This is fairly good. So Rise is already up here. And now you'll see the solos more or less playing for 16. Some roams may happen, especially towards this mid tower. But expect G2 to be very happy in this setup. I don't expect anything too big to happen here, unless the Elise finds a pick, which is what her job kind of is right now. You see the Elise hovering the Jace, because 1, it's a deeper lane, and then 2, the Rise isn't pushed up yet, so you don't know if there's someone sitting here or they're setting up a trap for bot. So that's more why they have to play like this. As you can see, the G2 is very happy with their position, just farming it up here. This, they're just playing for vision. They know they're stronger as 5. It doesn't really matter that the score is only 1-0. G2 is very far ahead. They're just playing a very methodical style at this point. They know that the rotation has to be long ways, so that's kind of why they're looking for picks, because if someone tries to take a shortcut, then they will be on top of that. SKT trying to get back some Baron vision. Rise should be very close to an item, so that's kind of why he's sticking around. I would assume him to 1-buy like Morello or something. He's been in this lane farming for quite a long time. G2 has bases, so they're trying to get the vision back. I expect some kind of pinks to be on the map for pink plays. And they're back in the 1-3-1. This is Infernal Drag, so they're going to play for this one for sure. Ryze is basing for his 1-buy, I believe. Sells Ring. Yeah, gets Spellbreaker, or whatever this item's called. And then now they're just going to get this Infernal Drag. So they're playing around objectives very well. I'm pretty impressed from G2. Granted, they're supposed to win this game from draft start. But they're playing it well, is the biggest thing. So they're kind of like going for this 4-1 stuff over the 1-3-1, which makes sense, especially when you see the Lee Sin. You can kind of say, hey, look, they're making a mistake. Let's just go get this stuff. That was pretty dangerous. Caps got hit there. He would die. A little bit of greed trying to go for that tower. Nautilus ult doesn't work on Xayah. They pick up the Lee. This is why the Nautilus pick getting forced to go bottom was so bad. Because SKT pretty much knew, like, hey, if this Ryze goes mid, then we don't want to give him a free farm lane. And they gave it to Faker instead with an outscaler. But it doesn't really matter that you outscale if you can't team fight. They are really burning down this Baron. They end up getting it. Burst was a little off, but it was fine. So 2 for 1 there. Not much happening here. You're just going to see them set up their 1-3-1 with the Elise like setting up her trail. They the reason why he's trailing, like, again, it's the Jace long lane, but it's also this combo can't really be killed. SKT has no hard engage outside of Nautilus. That doesn't work on Xayah because she has R. Oh, he also took TP, which I didn't notice, but it's actually really good because the Ezreal Nautilus has no kill pressure in lane. So you know that it's not going to be like a big fight. That's why I was saying like the Ezreal pick is kind of strange, because you definitely could have tried to play through your bot lane had you picked something stronger. But the draft was just kind of a mess. I can't emphasize how much the draft means. This is this is the Silas not being able to take any good ults. You saw that he took the Xayah ult and it just does absolutely nothing. So big props from G2 to come up with a comp like this. The only ult he could take is the Rakan ult, but it's hard for him to access it too because he has to hit the hook first and then press R. Or he could press R and then try to hook, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, this game is just can't win. Like not really possible for SKT to win off of draft. I mean, I'm sure it's just hard for me to see any kind of win condition for them. Maybe they can hold out, but they don't, like, I don't know. Their Morg ban was completely confusing. Maybe they didn't think Caps want to play Ryze because he's known for like kind of an aggressive player. So then that's why they picked Nautilus. Try to bait him into like outplaying the Nautilus. I don't really know, but draft overall really bad from SKT. Really impressed from G2. They played the macro really well. They played the draft really well. Overall, just good prep from G2 and their coaching staff. Alright, that's it for this one. I'll see you guys on the next review.